Sanctuary, Heavenly Birthstones, Part 4, compiled by Shirley Jean Street and read by Wayne T. Street. Cynicism finally begot tolerance. Across the table of convenience, they ate their daily bread in cold indifference. Something of all this strife may be traced in Jacob's dying request. Bury me in the cave. There they buried Abraham and Sarah, his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah, his wife. And there I buried Leah. Genesis 35, verses 16 to 20. Even now, he cannot bring himself to add, my wife. It is clear that from the first, Jacob had set his heart on marrying Rachel. In this, as in everything else he attempted, he finally succeeded. She was gentle and kind, and her disposition and character were in keeping with her looks. She was a beautiful woman. Leah was plain and less vital, though more calculating than her sister. Through their years as Jacob's wives, these two sisters grew farther apart. Leah became the mother of 6 sons and 1 daughter. Proud and self-satisfied, with the consciousness that she had achieved part of her ambition, she was yet denied the abiding trust and love of her husband. Rachel fretted and grew frustrated. She had no children. In desperation, she suggested to Jacob that he take her maid and vicariously give her children by her slave. The self-abnegation, the stung pride, the sheer extremity of the suggestion furnish us with a yardstick to measure Rachel's humiliation. So Jacob took Bilhah. Cyrus H. Gordon writes on Bible customs and the Newsy tablets in the Biblical Archaeologist, February 1940 issue. He says, the tablets found near Haran at Newsy inform us that this was a current legal/social practice for the age in which they lived. To compete, Leah immediately urged her own maid upon Jacob. But this, of course, was not a satisfactory reason for breaking God's plan of monogamy as instituted in the Garden of Eden. The results were nearly tragic. God's grace and pardon only prevented complete chaos. God's purpose through both the sad and glad chapters of salvation's story has been to restore the image of Christ in fallen man. However, man does not always cooperate with God in his plan. In the following chapters, we shall study the lives of the sons of Jacob. Scripture regards them as a kind of microcosm of the redeemed. The Revelator saw them as representative men of the new covenant. He then observed that the gates into the celestial city were inscribed with their names. We here will seek to answer these very relevant questions. How did they, the 12 tribes, attain to these positions of honor? What methods did the Spirit use to reach his ends? What messages do these conquerors, the 12 tribes, bring to us today who long to enter the gates of pearl? The Conquerors, by Dr. Leslie Harding. It is a striking fact that 6 of the 12 tribes sprang from Leah, who Jacob disliked. Only 2, or perhaps 4, if we count Ephraim and Manasseh, came from Rachel, who Jacob dearly loved. How wonderfully God overrules our likes and dislikes for his glory. A man's destiny is in his own hands, and so it proved with Jacob's sons. No one should hope for a future prosperity which has no relation to his present character. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Galatians 6, verse 7. From the very beginning, the Spirit has presented the salvation history of humanity to demonstrate that as a man lives, so will his posterity. What parents do will often be exaggerated in their children. Sarah gave Abraham her maid, and Leah and Rachel gave Jacob a maid each. Abraham took one servant girl, and Jacob doubled his offense. Jacob tricked his father and was himself tricked by Laban and Leah. But man's cross often becomes his crown. The thorn curse of the first Adam, Genesis 3, verse 18, became the thorn crown of the second, Matthew 27, verse 29.